thousands of years ago, long before cities, roads, or machines existed. The world belonged to the forests, the mountains, and the wild creatures that roamed freely. The sun rose over dense jungles and snow-capped peaks, casting long shadows across the land. In this vast and untamed wilderness, humans lived very differently than we do today. Their bodies were strong and rugged, shaped by survival in harsh climates. Their hands were thick and calloused, perfect for climbing trees, crafting tools, and catching prey. Their eyes were sharp and observant, scanning the surroundings for danger and opportunity alike. Thick hair covered their heads and bodies, protecting them from the bitter cold and scorching sun. Every movement, every glance, every decision had meaning, because the difference between life and death was measured in seconds. They awoke with the first rays of sunlight, moving quietly through the forest with their group, alert to every sound and motion. Their days were spent hunting, gathering, and navigating a world that offered no comforts, only challenges. Hunting was not just a way to survive, it was a test of skill, patience, and courage. They would stalk deer, boars, and smaller animals, sometimes waiting hours in the shadows, hidden among trees and rocks, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They used sharpened stones, hardened bones, and sturdy branches as weapons, carefully planned to bring down prey efficiently. Every hunt was a gamble, a delicate balance between strategy and instinct, with failure meaning hunger and sometimes death. But their lives were not only about hunting. Gathering food from the land was just as important. They searched for edible roots, fruits, nuts, and seeds, carefully distinguishing what was safe to eat. Along riverbanks, they would catch fish using handmade traps, nets, or simple spears, their movements silent and precise. They watched the animals that shared their world, learning their patterns and predicting their actions. Even the smallest mistake could prove fatal, whether it was stepping too close to a predator or misjudging the depth of a river. Every moment demanded focus, skill, and awareness. Their nights were different, lit by fire and shadow. Around the warmth of a flickering flame, the group would gather, sharing stories of the day's hunt, recounting dangerous encounters, or teaching the young the ways of survival. Children watched and learned, absorbing lessons in stealth, courage, and cooperation. The fire offered warmth and safety, a shield against predators in the cold, and it also became a place of bonding and ritual. The stories told around it were not just entertainment, they were instruction manuals for life, passed down from generation to generation. The humans of this time moved in groups, relying on one another for protection and survival. Conflicts with other groups were common. Territory, food, and resources often sparked violent encounters. But these moments also taught cunning, strategy, and leadership. Some groups were larger and stronger, others smaller and more agile, but all had to find ways to adapt. Every encounter, whether with another human group or a wild predator, tested their strength, intelligence, and courage. They learned quickly, observing and imitating, adjusting their tactics to survive the ever-changing challenges of the wild. Their bodies and minds were perfectly adapted to this world. The adults were strong, capable of running long distances, climbing trees, and wielding weapons with precision. Their faces were marked by sharp features, high cheekbones, and powerful jaws. Their expressions a reflection of constant alertness and experience. Their hands, large and dexterous, allowed them to manipulate tools, build temporary shelters, and craft weapons from stone and bone. Children trained through play, climbing, running, and imitating adults, learning the skills necessary to survive in a dangerous world. From birth, survival was taught, not assumed. Every day, they faced challenges from nature itself. Storms, floods, extreme cold, and harsh sun shaped their behavior and movements. They learned to read the clouds, feel the wind, and understand the patterns of animals and plants around them. Rivers were crossed carefully, sometimes using fallen logs, other times waiting for the water to calm. They watched the flight of birds and the movement of prey, constantly learning and adapting. Their senses were finely tuned instruments, honed by generations of survival. Hunting required more than physical strength. Strategy and intelligence were equally important. They would split into groups, silently coordinating attacks, surrounding prey, and using traps made from sticks, stones, and vines. Sometimes they had to chase animals for miles, testing endurance and stamina. Other times, they relied on patience, waiting motionless for hours, letting instinct and observation guide their actions. Failure could mean going hungry for days, while success brought food for the entire group. It was a life measured by skill, awareness, and timing. But they were not only hunters, they were also thinkers, observers of the world. They noticed patterns, experimented with fire, discovered how to create tools, and sometimes even painted on cave walls, leaving behind traces of their thoughts and experiences. Their lives, while focused on survival, were also filled with curiosity. They observed the moon, the stars, and the movement of animals, learning from the world around them. Every object, every sound, every sign in nature carried meaning, and learning to interpret it was essential for life. Despite the dangers, moments of joy existed. Children laughed while climbing trees or chasing each other through the underbrush. Adults sometimes danced around the fire, celebrating a successful hunt or the changing of the seasons. Music may have been simpler, beat on a log or the hum of a voice, but it brought the group together, strengthening bonds and offering relief from the constant tension of survival. Even in the harshest conditions, life found ways to celebrate itself. Interactions within their groups were vital. Cooperation meant survival. Older members taught younger ones how to hunt, gather, and navigate the terrain. Social bonds determined who would be protected, who would lead, and who would follow. These connections were not just practical, they were emotional. Trust, empathy, and communication were as important as physical strength. Every gesture, glance, and sound could carry meaning, teaching lessons or warning of danger. Survival depended on both body and mind. Predators were everywhere. Large cats, bears, and other fierce creatures prowled the forests and plains. Groups had to stay alert, use strategies to avoid encounters, and defend themselves when necessary. They learned to set traps, create noise to scare off threats, and retreat to the safety of trees or rocky terrain when danger approached. Every encounter with a predator tested their courage, planning, and teamwork. Some survived by speed, others by cunning, but all relied on the collective knowledge of their group. The seasons dictated their lives. Winters brought scarcity and required careful planning. Summers offered abundance, but also the challenge of heat and disease. They followed the migrations of animals, the fruiting of trees, and the availability of water. Every decision, from when to move to where to sleep, carried consequences. Their intelligence was not abstracted, was deeply practical, rooted in observation and experience. They had no written records, yet they knew the land intimately, as if the forests and rivers themselves taught them. Their appearance, their movements, and their interactions reflected this life of constant adaptation. Muscles were lean but strong, skin toughened by sun and wind, hair providing insulation. Faces showed alertness, patience, and experience. Eyes constantly scanned for danger or opportunity. Every individual was both a student and teacher, learning from elders while instructing the young. Culture existed in action: how to share food, how to hunt, how to survive together. And yet, despite all their adaptations, they were vulnerable. Disease, starvation, extreme weather, and accidents could strike at any moment. Many did not live past their 20s, but their legacy persisted in the DNA of their descendants, whispering stories of resilience, cunning, and survival. Every human who carries traces of these ancient ancestors is a living link to a time when life was raw, dangerous, and utterly connected to the world around them. Even the way they moved, how they crouched, climbed, ran, and balanced tells a story of adaptation. Every gesture had meaning, from signaling danger to coordinating a hunt. Every glance could save a life. Their world required constant awareness and flexibility. They were not the humans of modern times, but they were our relatives, our teachers in survival, our guides to understanding endurance and instinct. As you watch these ancient humans through the lens of imagination, it is easy to see how they might have seemed almost like another species to one another. Strong, primal, and deeply attuned to their environment. They were neither inferior nor primitive. They were survivors, experts in their domain, and every action was an expression of intelligence and resilience. And as you reflect on their lives, it is humbling to realize that parts of them still live within us. Every gene, every instinct, every fragment of our DNA carries echoes of these lost humans. Their strength, their alertness, their survival instincts, they are part of who we are today. The story of these ancient humans is not just about the past. It is about the hidden threads that connect us to those who walked the earth thousands of years ago. So if you are fascinated by the secrets of our ancestors, if you want to uncover the hidden truths written in our DNA, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join us on this journey into the past, where every shadow, every flicker of fire, and every whisper of the wind tells a story of survival, courage, and humanity.